All right, chat, here's what's happening today. Today we are going to be talking about over or underrated cards in universes. And this is the goal. Oh, I should take off this screen, huh? This one? Right? And then I can get rid of this. Today we are talking about over and underrated cards. The season is all but over. We only have one more provisional for the first season of My Hero. The other provisionals that were just announced today at time of recording, we are just not going to count. And so what I've done is I've got like 30 cards out of our 200-something card set that I'm just going to talk about and go through and look at what I thought at the beginning compared to my thoughts now of what's overrated, what's underrated, so on and so forth. And so, yeah. I was supposed to do that entire speech on this slide right here of the season is over, and we're just going to talk about cards. And at the very end of the video, I'm going to talk to Twitch chat, and you guys are going to shout out some cards, and I'm going to give you my opinions on them. So the first one, I just kind of went in order of like what it is. You're So Obvious. I think this card is overrated. This card, when the season first started, it was very, very it was very high on my list. I wanted to put it at a 4 of in every deck that I played. But I don't think that this card is actually that good at the moment. I think there's too many string decks that play wide, long chains, as opposed to big, tall chains, right? I think this deck's really good versus some specific characters. But I think that this card at the very beginning of the season appeared way better than it was. Yeah. And so for that point, I'm gonna put this card as overrated. Next, I've got Blitzbrush. Once again, I think this might be one of the most overrated cards in the game. Hilariously, I say that, and it just won a provisional, literally back to back. Big shout outs to Ace Maneuvers, who got to put some memes on the finals of the provisional. And it's hilarious because this card's very good against this card, but I think they're both overrated. I think it's really hard to kill with this card consistently. I think this card's very overrated. Yeah. Indiscriminate Shock. Underrated. When the set first came out, I thought this card was not very good. But as I have played more and more, every time that I see this card in my hand, I'm like, whoa, man, I just want to jam more and more of this card in my deck, to the point where like I just want to play 4 of it in every deck that I possibly can. I think this card is fantastic. One of the most underrated cards in the entire set. If you can put any sort of speed on this card, insane kill condition. Way better than Blitzbrush. Way better Blitzbrush. Hardened Chop. I think that, man, this is tough. I think Chop is actually perfectly rated. I think it back at the very beginning of the format, whenever we did have coordinated effort, I thought this card was like insane, like not fair. But I think now that coordinated is gone, I think this card does exactly what I think this card is supposed to do. Right? It's a 5 diff, 4 diff foundation that like punishes my opponent for block. So like it's just like a 5 damage move, pretty much guaranteed. If I can pump any stats on it, like makes it a little more threatening. Like the tactics that work with this card are really, really tight. Like if you can find good tactics, like Hardened Chop plus Hardened is a stunning combination, 2-card combo. So I think it's actually perfectly rated. I don't think it's overrated. I don't think it's underrated. And back before then, I would even call it broken. I think it would it is one of the most underrated cards. Of all time, back when we had coordinated effort, but now that that's gone, I think it's perfect exactly where it is. Hardened Pummel. This card is one of the biggest underrated cards in the entire game. For however overrated Blitzbrush is, Hardened Pummel is underrated. I do think that this card goes down in stock though as soon as we get out of set 1 meta. I think Hardened Pummel is amazing, fantastic, wonderful card, but I don't think that it is going to see much life past set 1. It's very mid. It's so mid. And the best part about this card is that you can't block with plus ultra, right? Pummel is as good as plus ultra is. Yeah, it's as good as plus ultra, and it's as good as a Razorhead is, right? Razorhead having 1 mid block, breaker 1 actions and constantly using them all over the place is just good, right? As long as you have good blocky actions, this card will see play. But as soon as set 2 comes out, and a lot of people are going to be ditching plus ultra decks, set 1 decks, in order to play the cool set 2 stuff, I think the card loses a lot of value. So for that, I think it's overrated, but it could... it's underrated, but it will soon become overrated. Razorhead. I think this guy's overrated. I don't think this guy's very good, honestly. It might just be the decks that I'm playing, but I think that it is way easy to play around a 6-hand size character with 19 health without my character's ability. I think the card quality in the game in the main board is good enough to push a Razorhead up and through. And if we went back and rewatched my my first tier list video, and I said that a Razorhead might get banned because of how good he is. But like after playing the game so long and like adapting to the environment, a Razorhead is not that great, honestly. He's fine, but he's not like crazy, you know. Razorhead is crazy in the hands of a person who is amazing at deep analytical thinking. I guess. If void kicks weren't as good, I don't know, man. I like a Razorhead is allowed to win games. That's not what I'm saying, right? But I just think that like overall, I think a Razorhead is whatever. Yeah. Cool student. This card's hella overrated. This card sucks, guys. This card's not a good Universes card. I hate to be the one to tell you. And if I am the one to tell you, I'm sorry I had to be it. 2/5, 2 high block. Discard momentum, your check is +2. Cards with momentum costs in this game are so hungry for them, right? Like EX is better than this card. Meteor Shower is better than this card. Like there's so many other cool abilities that you can have that discards the momentum to get +2 to your check. And then enhance, add this card to the top of your deck is good, but I don't think it's crazy. I think that like when the set first came out, I was gonna put like 3 of this in every deck that I can. But now it's tough to find even like a 1x slot of this card in a deck. It's crazy. It's crazy how good I thought this card was. And then I opened 1,000 of them. I love Cool Student. You're allowed to love overrated cards. You're allowed to. I'm sure I love plenty of overrated cards. Think Fast, underrated. I think this card is insane. Being able to change the zone of your attack feels really good whenever you have that perfect knowledge of something like Sarah, right? But even in something like it is, this card is single-handedly the reason why I lost against Froppy at the provisional as Midoriya, right? I held 2 high blocks, a mid block, and a low block, and he changed everything low. So I didn't have 3 blocks in my hand versus the all high deck. I had 2, so I died. And so it's tough. It's really, really tough. Not to mention the +1/+1 accidentally, like sometimes can push you up to the odd number. So a partial block, whenever we make it low and only have mids, goes off. It says that plus ultra is not a viable defensive tool, right? Because I'll just change my move off of mid, right? Going and taking your Hardened Pummel and making it not mid for whatever reason is great. Great. I think this card is very, very underrated, and I think that more people should be playing like 2, if not 3 copies of this card. If you have somebody who is very good at blocking, hey, you want to beat a Razorhead? Play Think Fast. They'll have to use their races to seal it, or else they just can't block everything because you'll just turn all your mid things to not mid. Setup Strike. When the set first came out, everybody was high on Setup Strike. I don't think you actually need this card. I think this card is very overrated. I think it's cool. I think it's fantastic for the starter decks, and I think it's fantastic as a cheap option if you've got like 3 slots and your block zones are covered and you're just like, I don't know what to play. You can just put Setup Strike in your deck and feel great about it. I don't think this card is very good for most decks. I think there's better quality cards that you could have over Setup Strike. With that said, I think it's one of the best arts in the game. Actually, I love the art. Yeah. Self-Sacrifice, underrated. When I first saw this card, I was very mid on it. I thought it was good, but this card is actually insane. It does so much. It's a spam. It's a great block. It's an off-zone block. It is +1 or -1 damage, so it's aggro or defense, and it keeps you out of deadlock if you want to. This card easily could have been a 1/4 and still played at a 4x in every deck that could possibly want to play it. This card is probably the definition of underrated. We love this card. We here in TamCardwell's chat are big self-sacrifice stands. We love self-sacrifice. Leighton Skill. This card is underrated. I mean, everybody knows the power of this card, right? Discard 2, draw 2. But I bring this up because next set, this card's going to be overrated. I think that next set, we're going to jump into the format, and there's going to be just enough cancels or just enough things to stop and mess with like inherent draw that this card is going to see a big decline in play. You're going to slam down double Leighton Skill on turn 1, and your opponent's going to slam down double Teaki Fanatic, and you're going to look at them and be like, wow, I'm over here trying to have fun and play the game, and you're just saying no to me, and that's lame. And that's lame. How dare you say no to me? Flip, discard 2 cards, colon, is just like not a flip, discard 2 cards, colon, destroy one of my opponent's or rival's foundations is not a good exchange rate. It's just not, right? We did get to watch Damdel do that against, I see what you did there, 2 fans of the stream in the last provisional, but he was playing as Tokoyami and literally had 5 other aggro cards in his hand. So, like, losing 2 cards didn't matter because, I mean, it got canceled because of Todoroki, and then 5 aggro cards. Like, that's, like, the perfect situation to, like bait out the whatever, and everything had to go perfect for him. Yeah, there was still a line where Damdel lost that game even through the Leighton Skill. So yeah, I think this card is good, is very, very good now, and honestly should probably be 4 ofs inside of people's decks. I don't know why they're not running 4 of this card in every symbol that can. Just being able to discard bad cards, draw good cards on kill turns is like so crazy good. But as the set goes on, or as the game goes on, it's just going to tank worse and worse and worse as people have answers to things. Specialized Soundwaves. This card is underrated. And I only say that because when the set first came out, I saw this card and I was like, it's a 3 damage, 3 diff, 3 damage, go find a card out of my discard pile, who really cares? But as the meta has evolved and we've seen the power of this card specifically in Jiro, specifically in Ochako, specifically in Denki, the air symbol just plays this card so exceptionally well that I personally thought that this card was overrated, but it ended up being underrated. I love this card, one of my absolute favorite cards in the entire game now, and I'm very happy that I got to play with this card as a underneath the air symbol. I'm excited to see in future sets what the all and good symbols get to do with this card. I'm excited for it. Capabilities, overrated. It's a 3/5 4 high block commit +2/+5. There was an old card called Prototype that I think did the same thing. It was because I think it might have been like destroy your attack. Doesn't have to be not keyword gated. Says +3/+6. And that card was good at like a 1-of in every deck that could play it. This card is fine. This card's fine. I think, like I said all the way back here at Cool Student, I think cards that are momentum hungry, like everybody's deck has a momentum out at some point, right? And so if this is your only momentum out, Godspeed, I love it. I think this card's great. But there's so many other good cards, good attacks, good foundations, good whatevers, that have good momentum outs, to the point where I would rather just play plus ultra over capabilities and get the same exchange rate, right? And I get to choose speed or damage for that same discard of momentum cost, and it blocks mid perfectly, as opposed to a 4 high block, which will like never block anything. Be a 3/5. Sure, I can commit this to like get pluses to my checks, but I've got the other foundations I could do that. I'd rather just run 4 plus ultras and do this job. With that said, this card might get better in the future with more Fury attacks coming out and more people not being able to run that plus ultra. But like, arguably, plus ultra is the best card in the game, right? Like I think that is a fair thing to say. I think plus ultra could easily be best card in the game material. But yeah. Sticky balls. This card's underrated. In comparison to when the set first came out. Obviously, all the water decks doing God's work, making aggro decks suffer because of putting the top card in their card pool. But I think the real underrated part of this card is actually the commit your non-range deck gets -4 speed. I think it's being able to block whatever you want on this card is super, super good. Have that reusable, crazy strong speed hate is really, really tight. And then on like the order symbol, we get to ready it back up. It's just a good exchange rate. Yeah, this card is very good, and I think it should be at minimum a one of in every single deck that can play it. I mean, some people are playing 4x of this card in their decks, and it's a 3/5 unique, right? It just tells you how good it is. That gets cards like Coordinated Effort banned, right? CreepyRealization, underrated card. I thought this card was fine, but this card is actually one of the only cards that I have personally on my watch list. I think that this card could easily find itself being banned if if any sort of card pool clogging on these three symbols gets out of control. And currently, it looks like in set 2, we have an absolute ton of card pool clogging on both characters' boards. And so, this card being a 2/4/3 mid block is honestly really bad in hand. It's bad on top of deck. It's bad in the card pool, right? Like, it's not a spam. But its ability on the board is really, really potent, to the point where I could see if you are missing some damage, if you're missing some defense, you could just jam 4 of this in your deck and probably feel fine about it, actually. I think this card's really, really good. And it shares, like, it as a technique is really good, but it tactically is so, it fits the pieces of the puzzle so crazy well. So yeah, this card's hella underrated, and it's already like an insanely rated card. Yeah, on the watch list, should be. Staff Strike, this card's overrated. And a lot of people are saying that Staff Strike is going to get better with set 2 because we've got Stain stuff, we've got Hatsume stuff. This card's not going to see play ever. I think the people that sell out and just try and make Staff Strike work they don't really understand the dynamic of the game well enough to, like, for all the reasons that this card is bad. This card is bad. Although I will say the card is going to go up in stock. Its rate is going to go up next set because, like, this is one of the most mid moves of all time, and so this plus ultra just, like, absolutely demolishes it. Even as Momo or even as Stain, who, like, gives it +2 or -3 to the check to block this thing. I mean, you just slam it down on a 5 and be like, I'm down for it. I'm here for it. I guess Stain gets away with it a little bit easier, right? Because he gets to minus the check on a 5 diff, so they check a 5, and they actually checked a 2. Yeah, that's really good. Man, Stain's so good. Maybe we just play Stain. I could be the hero killer. Anyways. My video's done. Gale Force Punch. Underrated. And this is because, like, I thought that this was actually the worst rare in the game. I thought this was the worst rare. And I pulled, just like Cool Student, I pulled 1,000 of them. This card has found a home in a lot of decks, not just Ochako 2, which definitely raised the stock of this card high. But I think that this card, having such a good disruptive ability of, if I have fewer foundations than you, pop, selectively destroy one of their foundations, and then if you can land this one and you find a second one, you destroy another one, and then swing for, this is what, 17 damage, all by its lonesome. Crazy exchange rate. Pay 3 health, do 17 damage off of one move inside of Ochako 2. This is crazy. It's got a 1 high block. Yeah, it's a 6/2, but, like, that's the price that you pay to like play the game, you know? Yeah, I think this card is super underrated, specifically in decks that can find speed. If you can find speed and play the game, I think that this card is really good. Right, like like this card might be crazy in, like, Bakugo 2, honestly, right? Like, I'm a 7-hander, I build up my foundations, and then you build more, and then I'll just, like, give this thing +2 speed, I'll jam this, I'll pay 3, my next comboed Fury has +5 damage and gets to pop off, right? Like, yeah, it's a 6/2. I'm not saying it needs to be a 4 of, but I think that there is a place for this is a place for this card to exist. I think there is a lot of room for this card to grow. Very underrated. Self-assured, underrated. Honestly, that top enhance is, like, insane, and I did not realize how useful enhance, commit, change the zone of this attack, mine or yours, was going to be in the meta, especially with how many breaker blocks that we have. I mean, we've got Ice Storm under all 3 of these symbols, right? So just being able to, like, commit and then fully block breaker to them is amazing. It's really, really good. As well as looking at, like, commit under all 3 of these symbols, making a mid plus ultra. Super crazy good. So yeah, I think this card is underrated. I think that the draw 1 card for every 4 range in discard pile is an overrated ability. I think that people play this card and they're like, yeah, this is what's gonna get me there. It's not. It's not what's gonna get you there. It's a high roll for sure. You're gonna be so late in the game that we have to like, I don't know. If you are digging to try and find range attacks, you're probably going a little wide, and so destroying a ready foundation is just not where it's at. Yeah, that's how I feel about it. I think it's fairly costed though, right? Because like sometimes it can just get you there, which we'll talk about another card that gets there, but that like in the same vein. But I think the underrated part of this ability is honestly the Chainsaw Zone. It's good, and it probably should be a one of in every deck that can play it, just because it is so good. A 2/4/3 high unique. Yeah. Instant Rush. This card's properly rated. Man, this card sucks when it sucks, but it's a banger when it's good. This card's a banger when it's good. When you can put like a bonus 2/2 or like eat a 1 respawn to give it an extra 3 speed and then commit and then in the enhanced step, it feels great. It feels great. Or putting a 2/2 boom boom on all of these and then like just like in the enhanced step, it's a 7/7 catch. When your opponent's at 4 and they don't have a plus ultra, like you're just like, I have to full block this, and what do I do? What do I do? Yeah, it's this card's super good, but at the same time, like, it's real bad when it's real bad. If you decide to enhance commit, and if it's blocked, I draw 2, and then they do successfully block it. It puts you in such a bad spot. Such a bad spot. It's rough. I think this card's properly rated. I think this card's fine. Great when it's great. Bad when it's bad. Fulfill my duty. I think this card's overrated. Did you guys see that? All my lights, everything just flickered for a second. That's crazy. Anyway, fulfilled my duty. It's a ghost. Fulfilled my duty 2/4/3 high. Destroy in this enhanced step. When I was playing these symbols, I just jammed 4 of these in my deck every single time that I could, and sometimes I would just die with them on board. And that feels really bad for like a disruptive card. I think that this card has its spot, has its place in the game, but I think it's like at a 1, maybe a 2 of. It's a 2/4 that, like, honestly, it's best to be using it the same way we talked about Engine Rush, right? Where I respond, give this thing a bunch of speed, and then into the enhanced step. Send it. I'm going to send mine. You don't get to do enhances to defend yourself. That's where I found the most success with the card, but, like, it is good to interrupt your opponents, but it's fine. It's Ida coming to get me for all the hate that I've been saying. That's funny, boo. Nervous Habit, underrated. One of the most underrated cards in the whole set. Lose 1 health for +1 speed. Why are more people not playing this in their fire and death decks? It's a 2/5 mid block. That's great. After Rebel commits this card due to an effect, destroy one of their foundations. Like, they destroy one of their foundations. I destroy 1 for you to destroy 1. That can, like, totally end aggressive turns, as well as paying your health as a resource for bonus speed is so good. I want to compare this card to another evil card that does something very similar, and that is Classmate Introductions, right? The Moneta card that says that your attack has not been blocked this turn gets +1 speed. I think this card is way, 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 way better, because even if they do block it, you still get to have that perpetual speed over the course of the turn. This is like a 4 of in every deck that I can find the room to run it. If at bare minimum, it's a 2 of, and I have, for some reason, I've got the craziest 2/5 mid blocks in my foundation lineup ever, and I would rather have a thicker foundation count or even add a bonus attack than leave this card out of my deck. I think it's so crazy important. For all you Tokoyami players out there, if you're not playing this card at a 2 of, I think you're wrong. Paying your health in order to guarantee that your big, crazy damage moves are swinging, fantastic exchange rate. Hella underrated. Play this card. Go beyond. Overrated. One of the most overrated cards in the set. When I first saw this card, I thought it was going to be like a 4 of in every single deck. I thought it was going to be crazy, and now it's only playable in like 2 decks possible. It's playable in Shigaraki. It's playable in tape swing decks, right? Like Discardable Momentum, go grab a tape swing, play a tape swing. It itself feeds the momentum to then go beyond and then grab it again and then play it. Right? So that card's hella unblockable. This card's only as good as the symbols not playing wall cling are, right? Because once again, looking at Cool Student, once again looking at whatever, you have to play I have one of them in my Mount Lady deck. I guess that's fair. That's fair, Crazy Jimmy. I just don't think that Mount Lady. I don't think Mount Lady's ever very good, but it's fine. That to get back Barrage is pretty sweet. That's a fair. Like there's good combos with it, right? There's good tactics with it. But I think this card. I thought this card was going to be way better than it was supposed to be, right? Yeah, discard momentum as a cost is a real ass cost. If it had a different cost, like discard a card or if the card was free, right? Like we would play it all the time. But discard momentum is actually tough to do. You take that back. She's a fun void kick deck. Sure. Double front beatdown. I think this card is underrated, but like just the slightest underrated. Like if this is rated, this is double front beatdown. It is just barely underrated. I think that hand enhance is kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. The only issue with this card, and if you haven't picked up for this card, you definitely should. There's going to be, mark my words, there's going to be a Bakugo and a Midoriya in every set that comes out for the rest of the time. They're the two main characters, right? They're the two main characters. So that Bakugo Midoriya enhance is just going to get better over time, right? We've already seen how think about how good Bakugo 2 or Midoriya 2 are going to be with this card. What happens with Midoriya 3? What happens with Bakugo 3? What happens with Bakugo 7? How good is double front beatdown going to be for that bottom enhance? Not to mention, my opponent puts a thing to the craziest stats of all time, right? And I just lay this into my card pool and say, nah, I'm going to just take a little bit. I know some people are sideboarding this card at a 2 of in every deck that can play it just because of that top enhance, and they're losing out on the bottom one altogether. They're just treating it as like a one-check action. And I don't think that's the correct move, but I do think that in Bakugo Midoriya decks, you should be playing it somewhere in your deck. I am actually bummed that I did not play it in my provisional list in the sideboard. My list was just so tight that I just could not find room for this card. Mark my words, though. I think in Midoriya 2, I think in Bakugo 2, I think in Bakugo 1, I think this card is going to be in decks. I think this card is very good for those characters. I don't think Midoriya 1 gets away with it, but his ability sucks. So there's that. Pillow Swing. Chad, this card sucks. This card is so overrated. It's a 6/3. Yeah, it hits hard. It's the middest mid I've ever seen. It's so slow. If you could put speed on it, yeah, I guess it's fine. It's cool in Midnight. I think that's the only deck that wants to play this card ever. I don't think it's good even a little bit. The only saving grace is Midnight. Jiro, I think that Jiro would never want to play a 6-diff. Ever. I don't think Jiro ever wants to play a 6-diff. If this card has staff strike symbols, I could see playing it, right? Because playing the 6 at the end of a chain for 8 is great. Yeah. It never hits, but I like the effects. Overrated. This card is not good. Flow combo. I think this card's honestly a little overrated. Actually, I think this card is fine in Shigaraki. I don't think it's playable pretty much anywhere else. Maybe you can get away with it in something like Nomu, because like a 6-eye for 9 for free is really good. Like that's a good rate. But like every other deck, I don't even think Ochako 2 wants to play this card. I actually don't. I don't think Ochako 2 wants to play this card. I think the only reason Ochako 2 will play this card under death is because they sideboard Shigaraki. Full combo Pillow Swing on my main one decks. I just don't think it's. I think there's just probably just better things you can do with your slots. I think that there's already enough slots in this game to like make these hard choices and say that flow combo is just like not going to cut the rug. Yeah, it's just not going to cut it. Great art though. Some of my favorite art in the entire game on this card. Art's fantastic. It's so dynamic and like shooting at the camera, and like you know what's going on. This should have been the card Meteor Shower, if we're gonna be honest. Anywho, 8/2. Underrated. I think this character's way better than I gave it credit for. Clip it and chip it. I think this card is fantastic. You want to talk about Odro with this card? That's a meme. If you could just keep off of face downs, then this card doesn't do anything to you. This is like the only win condition for the Death Odro deck. It's fine. Back to 8/2. I think this guy's underrated. I think more people should give this guy a shot. He's a 7-hand size order character, and that alone is good enough to like push him up and through, which is why I think Kirigiri is going to be fine. My biggest thing about Kirigiri in comparison to Ida is Kirigiri has a hard time killing people, whereas Ida doesn't. Here's the trap that I fell into with Ida 2, is I saw these words here or -2 damage, and I went, why would I ever discard a card, draw a card for -2 damage? And the thing is this accidentally happens, and it's like icing. It's a ribbon ability. I learned this term recently. It's not the package, but it's a nice ribbon that goes on, and you're like, oh, this is nice. I appreciate putting in the effort. This is a ribbon ability. The +2, honestly, this whole bottom enhance is a ribbon ability. It's neat for this to happen, but it honestly only ever happens about like once a game. Actually, it probably only happens like once a game, because it's so hard because of this once per turn. And I think the only reason that the order deck is good is because you're a 7-hand size order character that it is a 7-hand size order character that has access to so much draw. You have calling for backup, and you have calling for backup, and you have passing the torch. And I think that right there is the reason why Ida gets to be good. And then accidentally puts force speed on Reciprocal Burst, and accidentally put force speed on Indiscriminate Shock. Another one of those underrated cards. Concentrate. I think this card's hella overrated right now. I think that if you're paying any sort of amount of money for this card, I think you're wrong. It does stop plus Ultra randomly, which I've said is the best card in the game. But I think that I think this card is going to be held in people's hands, and it's not going to be good. I think it's a solid one of in every deck that can play it. As more actions come out, and as more actions are impactful in the game, yeah, we can get away with this kind of stuff. But I think Concentrate is actually hella overrated at the moment. And that's me playing as somebody who's like a diehard Air fan. I don't even know if I had one that I would play it in my deck. I actually don't know if I would play it in my deck. Price per piece, I think this card is ever so slightly underrated. I think it's a really neat one of, as long as you can find the space for it. It's a 1/4/3 mid block, and that sucks. That forecheck, that 3 mid block is abysmal. But sometimes in universes, you have to clutch it out, and you need to draw 6 more cards to win the game, right? I am 1 attack short, and I know I'm 1 attack short. I will form and play this on a 4. I have my stage ready. This card is underrated on turn 5 and overrated on turn 2, right? I think that on turn, if you can get the turn 5 and accidentally find the price for piece, I think it's a good card. But I think sometimes you get to win this, use this to win a turn 8 match at a provisional. 100% KK Panda, 100%. And that is honestly where I'm coming at it from, right? Like sometimes you just got to draw just a little bit more gas, and I think the price per piece lets you do that. And it's one of the only cards in the game that does let you do that. Is draw that just a little bit more gas. And so there it is. I'll go all the way back. Underrated, overrated cards. What are your thoughts on the cards that I chose? I just went through a list and was like, this one. Let me know down in the comments down below. And the bonus content live over on Twitch is, if you're in Twitch chat, I'm gonna spend the next 5 minutes shout out a card, and I will tell you if it's over or underrated. And if you're over on YouTube and you missed that, then come join me on Mondays over on Twitch, twitch.tv/TamCardwell. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I am so close to 1,000 subs on YouTube. It'd be very, very fun. So with that, I will be back with another video next week. Thank you much for watching, you guys, and I wish you well.